Hello and welcome back. This is IC Cup Railcoon here for part 2 of Game 2 between Tarson and Avoid here on the Scrap Station. This is Terran versus Random matchup. He did Random Protoss, and right now the two players are sort of positioning. Tarson looks like he wants to move out here pretty shortly, and there he goes. His Ghost has almost 2 EMPs on it, so he's going to be able to make a pretty decent push here on Avoid, who's only just starting to kick up the extra bit of unit production from his expansion. So Tarson needs to really get moving here. He does scan and take out that observer as he takes out this debris just to give himself a little bit more mobility. It will allow him to make some barracks down here, not have to have them walk all the way around. The same with up on this cliff. He is in fact going to break down the destructible debris here in the middle instead of going all the way around. And this is a decision that players need to not take so lightly, because if you do this and your attack fails, you are very, very vulnerable to a counterattack, especially when your opponent is already up on a base. Right now this is pretty risky for Tarson because his expansion is slower and he is going to move in for an attack here. If Avoid can hold this off, there's a decent chance that Avoid will be able to come in with a decent amount of forces and possibly deny him his expansion. So this is going to be pretty crucial here. We're going to have to see the EMPs. Oh, the Ghost gets completely trapped. That's what I'm talking about. He does get off both EMPs, but Avoid's going to be able to back off, regenerate as much shields as he can. Let's check the sentry energy. It looks like he got most of the sentries. Actually, only one survived getting EMP'd there. But he did manage to regenerate a decent amount of shields there. That's why I think having more than one Ghost is a little bit preferable to just one Ghost with a bunch of energy. Nice force fields there off of the one sentry to trap the units in there. And he's doing a decent amount of damage, though he did underestimate his units. He is getting forced back by Tarson. Probably should have cut the army in half there, instead of just trying to trap it in. Nice micro here by the Marauders of Tarson, though, taking out as many Stalkers as he can. And now he's going to kite around the Zealots, but there's a bunch of Stalkers warping in on this cliff, so he will be able to hold this off from the high ground, where of course Tarson cannot see him. But Tarson did successfully buy time for his expansion to come up, and he did sneak this factory back in here. If he can make a couple of Hellions, then this could be a little bit dangerous. Maybe able to get in here and start frying a bunch of probes before his opponent can react. There are some Immortals on the field for Avoid, as he's up to 7 Warp Gates actually, and a Twilight Council. So Avoid is starting to attack, and this is what I was talking about, how this is really dangerous for Tarson. Right now, he went through and he managed to kill a bunch of Stalkers, but he didn't do any economic damage, and now this really short middle path is completely open. And he's got to be worried about a counterattack by Avoid here, because he's still only on 4 barracks. And he hasn't really managed to kick up his macro off his expansion yet. His expansion is up and running. He's got some mules on it, so he will be looking to add in some more unit capability. But until then, if Avoid comes in with a nicely timed attack, he might be able to do some damage before those barracks are up and running. As you can see, Tarson's force is very, very small in comparison to Avoid's. So right now, Avoid, I really think, needs to move in and attack. He's ahead economically, he's ahead in the macro game, and he really needs to abuse this. There is a Templar Archive coming for Avoid, which I think is a pretty nice move, seeing as he's only seen bio from his opponent. And here he comes. He is going to move in. Zealots charging in. Well, they don't have charge, but they're slowly charging in as they're slowed by the concussive shells, trying to soak up some shots. But Avoid did not get there quickly enough, as Tarson was able to macro up a decent army here. So getting the Mobius reactor for the Ghosts, which will allow them to spawn with an EMP instead of having to spawn and wait for 25 energy. Very, very helpful upgrade if you're planning on making any decent number of Ghosts. Templar Archives is chrono boosting this Storm upgrade, and Avoid has his 3rd base up and almost running, so he's taking a pretty nice edge in this game. I would like to see him add in more warp gates. Tarson's continuing this aggression with a Marauder drop. He's going to come in here and power down as many probes as he can. Oh no, the probe death. Let's take a look at the unit tab. Avoid is still way ahead in workers though. 64 workers to 46. He's in a very, very nice position. He did have to pull his probes, but he sent them all down to the third, which I'm not entirely sure is great. There we go. He is pulling them back up to the main. Tarson being very smart here, he realizes he has to make sure that his opponent does not take the high yield. He's actually not scouted out the natural or third base of Avoid, which is rather surprising. Normally what I tell people who are having trouble getting up to this top level of play where they're low to mid diamond but they can't seem to compete with the really good players is that you have to work on your scouting. Scouting is so crucial in this game. You have to know what your opponent is doing. That's why it's so surprising that Tarson hasn't scouted those expansions at all. The only thing of the main that he's seen is from those drops. He has not really been scamming at all. He's been spamming mules like crazy because his expansion was a little bit later. He is going to move in here and he's going to seize his third base and be able to take it out. Avoid's going to have to make a choice here. Does he move back or does he take out the natural of Tarson? It looks like he's going to take out the natural of Tarson, and that will probably force Tarson to come back, as he only has this base and the command center that is lifting off to this rock expansion. So Tarson really faced with a tough choice here, as he is going to lose this expansion to the Stalkers and Sentries. There's no real way he'll be able to fly it away. Tarson looks like he's going to go for the throat here and go for the main of Avoid, which is a bit of a risky decision, as Avoid is doing the same. So we have kind of a base race going on, though neither player has really fully committed to it. Tarson is going up the ramp. Storm's maybe going off. Only one storm goes off. That's really crucial. Bad pylon placement by Avoid. Only one pylon was powering 4 gateways. So that one pylon kill was able to unpower 4 of his gateways. Tarson is doing pretty decent damage to the main of Avoid, but Avoid is bringing it right back to him. Both players are decimating each other's main bases. So this is really too close to call, but Avoid is losing a lot of tech here, while I think Tarson lifted away most of his barracks, and that's going to be very, very helpful to him. He'll be able to rebuild tech labs and reactors and still have a decent amount of unit production available, whereas Avoid's basically just on these couple of warp gates, warping in a couple of cannons, which is a nice decision. He did manage to rebuild his Templar archives before it died, which is very, very good for him. Those Templar are going to be very crucial in this fight. Tarson just landing his barracks everywhere. But looking at the worker count, one thing I have to give to Avoid is it's 26 workers to 5. So he will be able to recover a little bit faster. He does have the higher tech still because he did rebuild that Templar archives before he lost the Citadel. But Tarson still has this Ghost Academy as well. Both players are trying to chase each other down with their armies. Avoid gets in here and he's going to chase off this command center of Tarson. So nice play here by Avoid. Going to try and take out as many of these barracks as they can. But there's going to be really big confrontation between the two armies here. Charge lots coming in. But with mostly charge lots, he's going to get ripped up by this bio pretty quickly. So this game is pulling a little bit back to even, as Avoid is losing basically his army here, and it's going to allow Tarson to land his command center in here again. But all this time where Avoid has been mining and Tarson isn't, has got to be a big help to him. So I still have to say that Avoid is a little bit ahead, tech-wise and economy-wise. So Tarson's going to have to really focus and try and pull something off to be able to stay in this game. He's down to 4 workers. That is not really where he wants to be at the moment. And this observer is doing a great job of flying around the map, checking things out and seeing exactly what kind of a position he's in. I really like this by Tarson. So we are getting to the point where I'm going to have to cut here pretty soon. So yeah, I think I'm going to cut right here actually. So make sure you tune in for the next part of this series, Tarson versus Avoid.